everyone, and welcome to Season 3, The Voice of Luxury. My name is Lucy Challenger, and I am the CEO and founder of Polo and Tweed. And I am over the moon to welcome from a very, very sunny destination, Jazz Lintott. Jazz, hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I was just explaining to you a minute ago, I had a mad dash to get back on land to make sure that we could, make the interview in time. I was just a couple of minutes late, so
Oh,
apologies, but we made it.
all good. You're here and from a very exotic location. Now, for everyone tuning in, listening and watching for the first time, Jazz is an actor and producer. Now, Jazz and I go way back. We met many years ago. I'm not going to reveal our
Not
ages.
too many years.
Not too many years, like a handful of years ago
Yeah.
at drama school. And Jazz has had this incredible, varied, exciting career. And I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity, Jazz, for you to take over and maybe start at the beginning. Start by telling me a little bit about your career, your journey, your path, and where you find yourself now.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was not many handfuls of years ago. I'd say just like one small handful. So as you said, I'm an actor and producer. I've always enjoyed the arts, creativity, and I've always sort of enjoyed being my own boss, like making opportunities happen for myself. That there's many ways to do acting and producing, and all ways are valid. But I am much more the sort of personality that likes to sort of grab it by the horns. You can just have an agent and sort of wait for the phone to ring and wait for the jobs to come in. But because I've always had an interest in behind the camera as well as a producer, I've always sought to not solely put my career in someone else's hands. So I've always looked to try and make opportunities for myself and other people when possible. So I suppose how it all started was when I was probably about maybe like 13 or 14. My mum had a friend who came and lived with us for a little while, and she was a member of the National Youth Theatre, or she used to be. And, I was just asking her about it, and she was talking to me about it. And at this point, I hadn't really done any acting other than at school productions or something. And I enjoyed them. I knew I enjoyed it, but I didn't know at that point that, yeah, this is what I want to be. So anyway, she coached me and she sort of gave me some monologues to learn. And I ended up auditioning for the National Youth Theatre. And then I was a part of it for maybe 3 or 4 years. And for any sort of budding actors, any young actors or any parents who've got young kids who may be interested in it, I would always recommend National Youth Theatre. It's a great training ground for the summer, and there's a lot of great talent there. I think when I was there, Matt Smith was part of my year, a really great actress called Charlie Cavell, who's now a really good writer. But it was just a really great year to be there, and every year is really good. So anyone who's potentially thinking about it, or any parents, do have a look at it. So I started to do that. But at the same time, I was always really interested in just film sets. So every summer from when I was about 14, 15, I'd go and run on film sets for free. And for anyone who doesn't know what running is, it's, making teas and coffees, holding the umbrellas over the actors, stopping them from getting wet whilst you're getting soaked, sweeping up stuff, just generally doing whatever needs to be done. But it was a great place for me to see how a set runs. And as the years went on, I kept doing both. Every holiday, I would do the National Youth Theatre, and then for the other part of the holiday or the next holiday, it would be running on a film set. And as the years went on, I sort of progressed from a runner to a second assistant director, which basically is in charge of the schedule, not the scheduling. The first assistant director does the scheduling, but the second assistant sort of puts all the scheduling onto paper and gives it out to everyone, so everyone knows what's going on at what time, organises taxis for cast and so forth. So as that time went on, I was doing the acting and I was doing that, and it came to the end of school, which was 18, and at that point I had to sort of decide what I wanted to do. But I'd already been working as professionally in behind the scenes, as a runner, as a second AD, and also as a sound man. I went to be a sound man for a while. So I kind of thought, you know what, I want to pursue, I want to become a producer. So I went to film school, applied to Ravensbourne. And after the first year, I dropped out because I'd already been in the industry and I'd been on set and I was getting paid. I was kind of missing that. And the first year at uni was just all theory based. It was all in the classroom. And I understand why. It's to give people who may have not had any experience the opportunity to try loads of different departments. But I'd already sort of knew what I wanted to do. So I kind of got frustrated with it. So I dropped out, went back and started doing boom operating for Channel 4, MTV, and a few other places. And within about 6 months, I got frustrated again because I was like, I want to be in front of the camera. So then I started to apply for drama schools, but at the same time, me and a group of friends lived near N-Dubs, so we were doing N-Dubs' music videos before they made it. And then when they broke into the scene, my friends had directed a lot of their videos, so I sort of tagged on and started producing their videos, which then led on to doing like videos for gigs, videos for Universal, videos for just different record labels. And I was doing that for ages at the same time as being at drama school. And then when I left drama school, that's sort of when my acting career started. And at the same time, I kept the production company going for a little while, moved on to doing commercials, and then moved on to doing a couple of feature films. And went out to LA, produced a cool film out there, which was really great fun. But I kind of had gotten, because at this point I'd done a couple of series for the BBC, had done a couple of films as an actor, and I was kind of getting sucked in to the production world, and people were starting to see me as a producer. And I enjoyed it, and I still do enjoy it, but now I only produce my own projects. I won't produce other people's unless it's really cool. But my mum could see that, and when I came back from shooting this film in LA, my mum said, look, I've got some good news for you and some bad news for you. And I was like, all right, what's that? And she said, well, the good news is I've got you an audition to do your master's at Central School of Speech and Drama. And I was like, all right, great, cool. Like, I'm up for that. And she was like, bad news is it's tomorrow and you've got 2 5-minute monologues to learn. So I was like, oh, shoot. But long story short, I went back and did my master's maybe 5 years ago. And just to solely really immerse myself and get back in to just being an actor. And from that, it led on to me getting a good agent, and then sort of rebooted me as an actor. And that sort of led us to where I am now.
And so it sounds like you've had that dichotomy or polarity between the behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you have much strengths in both sides. But what is it that you particularly enjoy from both of those aspects? You know, is there certain things that you can pull out that is what makes you get up and want to do it when you do it?
Yeah, I think the key, and I think this is the key for anything in life, any job, any profession. And I always say it doesn't really matter what age you are that you discover your passion, whether you're 15, whether you're 30, whether you're 50, whether you're 70. Whatever age you discover your passion is a blessing, because not everyone is able to find what that is that sort of gives them that fire. I mean, I even saw the other week, or it may have been last year, I don't know, time seems to be going really quickly. But there was a woman who was in her 90s who just won a Grammy Award. She was a pianist and loved playing the piano, but never took it seriously and never actually did anything with it. And then at the age of, I think she was like 92 or something, she went and recorded some music and she ended up winning a Grammy. And I think, to bring it back to the question, is what enables me to sort of get up and do it every day, because both of them are freelance, you know, is the fact that I just love being a creative. And with the producing, I love being able to create something from scratch. And I think that ties into wanting to create opportunities for myself as an actor. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm waiting for someone to give me an opportunity. So I'd rather create my own opportunity, and make that happen. And part of producing that I like, so that's one big element that sort of draws me to it. And then the other element is I love problem solving. And producing is just problem solving every day. There's always things that are going wrong. There's always problems. And I kind of really enjoy those high pressured situations of just like, okay, cool, this is a problem. How do we get around this? And as soon as there's a problem, I'm thinking solutions. And I kind of enjoy that. And then with the acting side of things, I love being able to sort of, like even on a daily basis, you know, people intrigue me. And I think all actors have a certain level of empathy because you have to be able to read a character on the page. You know, you could be playing a murderer, you could be playing an abusive partner, you could be playing, you know, you could be playing something dark. And I'm not saying that everyone is good in the world, but I'd like to think that there is a reason behind people's bad behaviors, whether it's childhood trauma, whether it's you know, being abandonment, whatever it is, there's always something that sort of has triggered that, I believe. And I think once you are able to locate what that is, you can make that character human. And I just enjoy playing. I enjoy having fun and just be, you know, just acting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the joy of being an actor. And I think to being a producer to a point as well, with the reactive kind of fire putting out and dealing with things on that spot, but that ability to jump and experience and create magic, but also that layered magic like you're talking about, where you're taking a character and not just giving like a two-dimensional representation, like you say, even perhaps the most inverted commas evil people out there will have reasons for, you know, that the path they went down, and you as an actor need to do your due diligence. You need to understand that and give a fair representation of that moment and that character. You mentioned earlier about, you know, if people were listening and wanted to get into this industry, and
Yeah,
I'm aware this industry is ever evolving. It's different from when you and I were at drama school, and you know,
yeah,
continue to change. But is there any guidance for these two areas? You've already touched on it a little bit, but if someone's
yeah,
listening to this and thinking, I want to be an actor, or I want to be a producer, or I want to be like Jazz, I want to do both,
yeah.
what would be your guidance as sort of starting points that people could do?
I think as a starting point, like if I'm going to separate both of them because they obviously both have different angles. For a producer or to work in production, it doesn't necessarily have to be a producer. Anything to do with production, and I actually still do this now, not with producing but with acting. And unfortunately, you know, the industry is kind of a really hard one because a lot of the times you have to, especially, well, certainly when we were starting in the industry, and I believe it's probably not changed that much in this regard, but it's kind of like you have to have someone who can support you a little bit in some instances, because like when I was doing the running, I was doing it for free, and not everyone is able to sort of do that. My mum certainly didn't have loads of money at all, but she was able to, you know, buy me food and put food on the table and so forth. But I think a really good starting ground would be to, if you're looking to get into production, would be to look up shows that you like. Let's say Marcella, let's say Top Boy, you know, any show that you like. Find the production company who are making it, look at the end credits or go to IMDb, and then find out the contact number on IMDb for that production company or the email address. Call them, pick up the phone, call them and say, look, I would really, you know, I haven't got much experience. I'm young. I'd really love to get into the industry. You know, I'd really like to come and maybe do some work experience, or I'd love to run for you guys and, you know, work my way up. And running's always a really good entry point if you're unsure of exactly what field you want to get in, because as a runner, you're working with all of the departments. You're taking teas and coffee to the camera department, to the producers, to the sound department, to the costume, to everyone. And it's a really good opportunity for you to network. Be yourself. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to speak. Um, like for example, I did a BBC comedy pilot a few months ago, and it was just a 2 day shoot. And the producers had done quite a few things, and my scene was only it wasn't loads of scenes that I had to do on that day. Rather than going home, I got changed into my normal clothes, etc., and I went and stood by the monitor next to the producer and the director. I wasn't trying to like beg their friendship or anything. I was just making my presence known and just watching. And every so often they'd look over and say, "Oh, what do you think of that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's looking great." Do you know what I mean? I just made myself, and I actually had a plane to catch that night. But I stayed there for as long as possible, just putting myself around the right people so that they knew who I was. Yeah, obviously, they knew who I was because I was doing the show with them. But we only have 2 days to get to know each other. So rather than leaving and going home, I wanted to sort of just be present. And I think that's sort of key is to, and the way because I started off as a runner, when I started producing, I was able to get a lot of people to work with us. Sometimes, we'd have our own ideas and didn't particularly have a massive budget. But because I'd given work to all sorts of different people on different sort of jobs, and because I came from being a runner, I respected everyone on set. Without the runner, I'm not getting a cup of tea when it's freezing cold and I have to stand by the monitor, or I'm not getting a hot water bottle, or the sound department aren't getting what they need. So the runner, in my opinion, is just as important as everyone else on set, because we each have our part to play. And the reason I'm saying that is because if anyone is just starting out, and if anyone is just coming onto the set for the first few times, do not see yourself as just anything. You are like a crucial part of the team. See yourself as that, and don't be afraid to, at the appropriate times, make a conversation with the producer or the director, because those are the people who hire people. If you're looking to get into the camera department, normally the producer will hire the heads of department, so the head of camera, the DOP, the head of makeup, the head of sound. If you're looking to get into a different department that's not producing and directing, make friends with the heads of that department and say, "I would love to be able to do this more. Can you keep me in mind if you have any productions coming up?" Make yourself known, basically, is a great way for producing or production. And then with the acting, I still do this to this day. I mean, I've got I've got a film out on Prime and Apple at the minute with £5 of Pressure. It's gritty Brooklyn Lionsgate thriller, and I was waiting patiently for that to come out, because the second it came out, I mean, I made a list of casting directors, producers who are doing shows that I love. The day it came out, I'd already had my bio ready. I already had my new show reel cut. I already had a list of these producers and directors, and I must have sent out about 100 emails. I probably only got about 5 responses, but one of those responses is an Oscar-winning producer who's now coming to see this play that I'm in November. So just don't be afraid. No one's going to hand you anything unless you're super, super lucky. And even at this stage, I'm still emailing people selling myself, but not overly selling myself. I'm waiting for the right thing to come out. And, look, I've got this great film out. Please have a little watch of it, see what you think. Really love your work. Would love to have a coffee one day if you have the time. And I managed to get a meeting with a really fantastic producer out of it. So it's just about being brave and not being afraid of failing, because inevitably, as an actor, you are going to fail more than you win, because you're not going to get every audition you go up for. And the key is not to see it as a failure. I know that every time I do an audition, I believe in myself. I believe in my ability. I believe that I am never going to do a bad audition. It's either going to be right for them or it's not. And if I don't get it, in my head, perhaps they've already cast my mum and dad, and I just don't look like them at all. And then it's on to the next one.
That to cope with the rejection and the failure, for want of a better word, is a difficult pill to swallow, I think, as an actor and actress. And I think also what you've touched on in terms of the networking side of things is really important. I'd also add an aspect of my own knowledge to this, which as a woman, when I was starting out and going to castings and going to things, and like you said, you worked for free as a runner, there were many opportunities back then, and there probably are still now, where I got invited to what I'd call probably slightly dubious castings. And
Yeah.
being asked to turn up to various apartments in London and bring my acting headshot. And I think it's really important, like you said, about going on to IMDb and checking out the company or the casting director, and going directly to the sources like that, that it's really important that young people, not just women, but all young people, are really careful with what they go to, and not sort of jumping willy-nilly into this world and going, oh, just because it's an advert in the back of a paper must mean that it's because so
Yeah,
much, like you
absolutely.
say, it's being asked to be done for free, and this, that, and the other, and there is that vulnerability that you're putting yourself into by networking and
Yeah.
going places. Have you ever I wanted to just jump back again to something you said earlier about playing a
Yeah.
role with different levels and different
Yeah.
nuances. Have you ever, what's the hardest role you've ever had to play?
Um, the hardest role I've had to play. It wasn't the whole role. But I did do a film a few years ago with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and my actual character wasn't a hard or bad character, but basically it got to a point in the film where the tensions were really high. It was sort of a life and death situation, and there was a group of friends. It was like 4 or 5 of us in this ensemble cast, and I basically was in love with this other female character that was in the film, and basically it got to a point, and it was just a really, really, this particular scene was a really hard scene because it got really physical. I basically I didn't rape her in the scene, but it was heading in that way. And then there was one of the other friends who were one of the other ensemble actors who was also part of the scene, but he was sort of against me in it. But it was just that headspace of getting to a point where that's even a possibility. And it did get quite physical. You know, I actually fainted in that scene because I don't know I'm not sure what happens with the stage the film combat stuff. But or emotions just ran over. But when I was meant to go and rape her, this guy, the other actor, great actor Andrew Shimmy, who was in This Is England and loads of other great stuff, he basically choked me, and he's actually an MMA fighter as well, and he was choking me, and it actually choked me, and I fainted. But just getting to that point of that level of sort of tension and darkness was quite hard. And actually, no, the hardest role I've ever played, sorry, I completely forgot, is a project that I'm doing right now. It's a project called Going for Gold. It's a play that we put on last year. We won 4 awards for it, and we're putting it on again this year at Park Theatre. It's an amazing, amazing true story, full of injustices from the 70s. It was it was about racism and boxing, and this character, a guy called Frankie Lucas, who was probably one of the best boxers people have never heard of. Really interesting story. But long story short, the play starts from when he was 7 and has just arrived in England, and it ends when he's in his 70s. And in that time, he goes through so many injustices and situations that have sort of mentally broken him down, that he develops psychosis, and his world sort of starts to spiral. And then at the end, there's a nice uplifting, moment between him and his son, because Frankie sort of disappeared for a good 30 years. But that was this was by far the hardest role I've ever had to do, because I was on stage from second one to 2 hours, 20 minutes later. And in that time, I went from 7 to 70 and went through psychosis all through the middle section, and gradually losing your mind. And I wasn't great company at that point, I have to be honest. My girlfriend flew over from Canada to watch it, and you're in rehearsals for a month, and then you're performing it. And I think because of the nature of the piece, it was a very heavy piece. I wasn't the most fun. Like, after the play, I just wanted to chill. I didn't really want to go for dinner. I didn't really want to laugh and joke around, because I was exhausted. and also very, it's a very physical play. There's a lot of boxing in it, but also mentally to go through that cycle of someone who starts off with full of hope. Like, he was the British amateur champion, and he basically didn't get picked to represent England in the Olympics because he was black. Then the next year he was the champion again, and they refused to pick him for the Commonwealth Games. He ends up going to the Commonwealth Games anyway, representing the country of his birth. All the local community rallied around and set up St Vincent as a boxing association, raised money for him to go. He went there, he beat the English guy in the semi-final, won the gold medal, and then England lost out on the leaderboard by 1 gold medal, which would have been his had they picked him. So there's that moment of just complete elation and ecstasy, and yeah, I did it. And that's just the first act of the play. And the second act is him turning professional. And when he turned professional, he was faced with the same racism, and he just got beaten down mentally, beaten down until eventually he just, developed psychosis. And that was a really hard journey to go on, to go from all the hope to the ecstasy, to the disappointment, to the belittling, to the being put down, to losing confidence, to just then developing mental health problems. That was definitely, and I don't think I'll ever play a role as hard or as great as this role. It's such a brilliant play, and it's such a it's written amazingly, and it's just one of these roles that as an actor you can really get your teeth stuck into.
I don't know if people listening know the concept of a method actor, and I'm sure you could probably explain that much better than I can. But that concept of becoming the role in its entirety and becoming the character, but regardless of whether you are method acting or you are just acting,
Yeah.
that's a fair distinction to make.
Yeah.
You still have to go there emotionally with it. It's not like you can just create a facade of this character. You are having to feel these deep things that this person is going. Is that a fair sort of assumption of that?
Yeah, I would say completely. It doesn't matter. Everyone has different techniques with acting. Method acting, as you said, it was, method acting is like, I would be the character that I'm playing, but I would be that character outside of the rehearsal room. I would walk around as that character. I would dress as that character. I would speak as that character. Daniel Day-Lewis is someone who's, famously known for being a method actor. I'm not so much of a method actor, but you are right. No matter what your technique is, you have to feel these feelings in order for it to be conveyed as true. And it can be exhausting. When I got this pilot that I was telling you about earlier with the comedy pilot, it was such a breath of fresh air because I always play, and I love playing characters on a quest, like someone who has to overcome an obstacle to achieve their goals, and I really do enjoy those roles. But I'm also, like, in real life, I'm like really silly and like chilled and like having fun and a bit goofy, and I never get to play those characters. So when I got to play that character in this comedy pilot, it was just great fun. You came away from set at the end of the day like laughing and happy. Yeah, let's go for a drink. Yeah.
Do you find that a lot of your roles are typecast? Do you find that kind of stereotyping and typecasting happening in the acting world and with yourself and your career?
For sure, and that's the reason this play that I was just talking about is a play that me and my mum created together. My mum went back to do her masters to write this play for me because I was always getting seen as terrorist or drug dealer roles, and that was literally the auditions that I got for years and years and years and years. And that's sort of also part of the reason why I started to end up producing more, was because I wasn't really getting the roles that I wanted to be playing. And that's why my mum then said, look, I know that you want to be an actor, you need to go back and do your masters. So there's definitely, I believe that it has gotten better. I mean, you can turn on the TV now and there is a lot more diversity. I still think there's a lot that's needed to do. Like it shouldn't just always be that like a person of color is the role of they can be doctors, they can be just the husband, they could, so I definitely still think there's more work that can be done, but there definitely has been an improvement for sure. But yeah, the main reason of me putting on this play, apart from the fact that it's a fantastic, amazing story about a phenomenal individual that not many people know about, was to create an opportunity for myself to play a role that has real depth and has to overcome some stuff, and just to give just to play an incredible character, and that's why this play, Going for Gold, is being put on. That was the initial reason. And now it's taking on a life of its own. It's actually, it's about Frankie Lucas and his story. But that, to answer your question, yeah, this is sort of why we've done the play.
And you talk about that intensity and that difference between obviously Going for Gold and then, the comedy show or comedy that you did. What do you do to sort of relax? What are you doing when you're not working? Are you studying Shakespeare? What is it that excites you and allows you to sort of step away from your actor's mind? Or is that always there and you're always doing that stuff?
No, it's not that I'm always doing that stuff, but the aspect of it that I am always doing, not like every single day, but I've always got my eye on what have I just seen that I like, who are the producers that are making them, and then I'm constantly adding to a list of producers and directors and casting directors who I haven't worked with, who I can email. So throughout the year, I'll continuously do that, not like every week, but maybe like once a month I'll look at my list and send out something to be proactive in that regards. And it does help. I do get meetings with people who I haven't met just to have a coffee, just to introduce myself, and just so that I can meet them. But in terms of like when I'm not acting, I mean, for the last few years I've been living in Barbados, which has just been like, I grew up there.
In the whole world.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I grew up there.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I feel very, very blessed and lucky. Like, I grew up there when I was younger, from 4 to 10, and it really shaped me as a person, I think, as my character. For example, we would have the TV, the next door neighbor would have the fridge, the one opposite would have the telephone, the doors would be open, we'd all be in and out of each other's houses. I'd wake up in the morning before my mum, and then she'd wake up and say, has anyone seen Jazz? And they'd be like, yeah, he's out at sea with a fisherman. And then I'd come back at the end of the day with a fish and cook it on the beach. And it's just, it's a totally different lifestyle and a totally different set of values. So I think growing up with that sort of enabled me to see that it's not all about, especially for me, I think, being a creative person, it's not all about the hustle and bustle and the hamster wheel. I have different aspirations and different dreams. And that's not to say that someone who's an accountant or someone who's, whatever the industry is, your dream may be to just have a family, not just, but to have a family, to be able to provide for that family, and that be, and that's really what you want to do. And this is sort of brings back to what I was saying earlier. It doesn't matter what you enjoy doing in life, as long as you sort of enjoy doing it. My friends, a lot of my friends are bankers. Majority of them love banking. They absolutely love it. And so great. I like, great that you're doing something you love. For me, it's not my path. But whatever it is that anyone enjoys doing, whatever that is, as long as you're not harming anyone, I think more power to you, and do what you enjoy. And similarly, if you don't enjoy what you're doing and you feel like you're in a rut, I always encourage people to think about what their hobbies are. Like, if you're working a 9 to 5 and you're like bored out of your brain with it, and you want more, what are your hobbies? Do you like knitting? Do you like Zumba? Do you like walking? Do you like hiking? Whatever it is, find time to include some element of that, even if it's like for a couple of hours a week. Maybe it's an hour a night, to just do what you enjoy doing, to feed your soul, basically. So for me, I went to Barbados, and me and my partner started doing, we noticed a little gap in the market, we basically started doing hip hop brunch cruises on catamarans in the Caribbean Sea, because there wasn't really that happening. And then we started doing soul house nights on the catamaran, and just little things that, we enjoy going out. Every time we go out, people always say, oh, you guys have got such good energy. Like, where are you going after here? And then I said with my partner, we both said, you know what, why don't we just do our own party? So then we started doing that, and that's just completely different. And it gives me a chance to sort of relax and unwind a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing advice, and I love that you talk about, finding something that you enjoy that makes you curious and then going after it. What makes you curious? Are there things at the moment that you're like, oh, I'd really like to explore that?
Do you know what? For me, it's just like the biggest things for me, and I think this is sort of maybe to do with being an actor, but probably not. I think it's probably just the way my mum raised me. Um, I care a lot about people, and things that make me curious and that I enjoy is sort of helping other people where I can do, whether that's volunteering somewhere. Um, with the play that we're doing now, Going for Gold, we've developed a completely separate outreach program because it's based around mental health, and we know how high mental health problems are these days. We've developed a Frankie Lucas workshop where we've been traveling around the country, and we deliver 2-day workshops. First one is in the boxing gyms, and that's because that's their environment that they're used to. And we do boxing therapy mixed in with a little bit of drama therapy, where we act out one of the scenes where prejudice happened to him, and we talk about those things. And then the second workshop, we take them to the local theatre. So, for example, in Bristol, we went to Bristol Old Vic, and we put them in the theatre, took them onto the stage, and that whole day was really about manifest. It was all drama therapy, but it was really about manifestation. By the end of the day, they had to write a monologue or a 2-minute speech, accepting a lifetime achievement award for whatever their passion was, whether it was world champion boxer, some of them wanted to be architects, some of them wanted to be nurses, and they had to give a speech accepting a lifetime achievement award for that profession. And what we found from that is, people said, some of the young adults said, I've always wanted to be an architect and always sort of believed that I could be, but I've never said it out loud. It's always been that I've just said it in my head. And today, actually saying it out loud has really made me feel like I can do it. It doesn't sound silly when I say it out loud. So those are sort of things that make me curious and that interest me. And to be honest, aside from my acting and the producing that we're doing at the minute, because it's really not an easy industry. Um, I've had the opportunity to do these outreach programs recently, which has been great fun, and I could honestly travel the country just doing those, and that would fulfill me. I would probably miss acting because that really is really, really, really what I want to do. But I would get so much fulfillment and reward from doing the outreach stuff that I would still feel, that I would go and do maybe amateur dramatics to feed that part of me. But as we've sort of been alluding to this conversation, it's not an easy industry, and you really do have to hustle. So at the moment, we won 4 awards last year for the play, and we have a number of production companies coming to see it for the film rights. But we are putting it on in November. So from January until even now, still, even while I'm here, I'm taking calls and emails and back and forth with England with the theatre production. I'm so engrossed in making this happen. It will happen, and it has to happen. That I'm just focused on that. But then at the same time, I'm in the British Virgin Islands at the minute doing some separate work, and I'm in the sun, and it's not all. Before coming here a few weeks ago, I'd been going at it at both ends. Really, I was burning the candle at both ends because I sort of needed to, with my mum, and it was at the point where I needed to step away for a moment, because too much of it all at once. There are no hours. I'm not getting paid until it all happens. Therefore, it's not like I work 9 to 5 and at 5 o'clock I just clock off. It's like, shoot, this also needs to get done. But you can burn yourself out, and I was getting close to doing that. So things that I do to sort of relax and come out of that is I try to meditate every day. I listen to, you can YouTube it or Spotify it, but it's really fantastic. It really helps me. Deepak Chopra's 21 Days of Abundance meditation. It's not very long. A lot of people find meditation hard. It's very small snippets. It's about 15, 20 minutes long. And at the start of the day, for me, it really helps ground me, and it really helps focus, and it just resets each day. Do you know what I mean? Nothing that we're doing here on earth is more important than health. So, I saw a video yesterday. Someone said, if I was to give you £10 million today, what would you say? And they said, I'd say thank you. And then they said, would you take it? And they said, yeah. And then I said, what about if I told you that if you take it today, you're not going to wake up tomorrow? Would you still take it? And they said, well, obviously, no, I'm not going to take it. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is health is more important than money.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've, through your journey, started to get good techniques in learning to regulate that awareness that you are burning the candle at both ends, and that something needs to soften and something needs to ground.
Yeah.
And something needs to shift in order to keep your health and your focus and your perseverance to keep going after your dreams and your goals. Is there anything, I mean, you mentioned earlier about doing a very difficult scene with, where you had to act out a sexual assault. Is there anything in your life or work that shocks you or makes you feel uncomfortable?
In terms of I think the biggest thing that shocks me, and you can see it on set sometimes, and it's not just solely in set, and this is just generally in life. The things that kind of shock me is certain people's unkindness to others, and lack of empathy, or selfishness. People who, when I see acts of selfishness or unkindness, those are the sort of things that I find uncomfortable. And those are the sort of things that I would sort of step in and try and placate or try and help someone with, but generally, I try to surround myself with like-minded people. I believe that we all work off of energy, and that energy attracts energy. And I've learned these lessons the hard way, as we all do sometimes. But these days, I try to just surround myself with people who have similar beliefs, similar mindset, and similar energy, similar wants, similar drives. Because I find it uncomfortable being around people who aren't aligned with my sort of views, or not necessarily views, but my sort of outlook.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, we've spoken about how the industries have shifted over the years as well, and you finding ways to continue to be curious about your passion, craft. And of course, we find ourselves now in an economic challenging time around the world. Obviously, in the UK, as you know, we had Brexit and we had COVID, and all of these things have shifted the markets and the global markets, and we see, the bringings of recessions and challenges. When you look back at your work and your life, and obviously you've had your personal challenges, what wisdom would you share with us about ways that you journeyed through that and ways that you overcame personal struggles at the time?
Personal struggles, and overcoming certain obstacles and problems, and again, I've learned the hard way. But generally, I've been really blessed with really loving family. My family's small; it's my mum and my brother, but I've been really blessed with a really amazing mum who, like, for example, with the doing my masters. She knew that I enjoyed producing, but she knew my passion was acting, and she knew that that was my calling. She applied for me to do it. So I've kind of been really fortunate to have someone like that. And then it's also the similar things of recentering, taking time for yourself, to meditate, to breathe, to actually think, is this right for me? Am I doing the right thing? What are the options? Do I go left? Do I go straight down the middle? Do I go right? Actually thinking about it. And unfortunately, I've lost a lot of people in my life. Up until maybe 3 years ago, I think we probably lost someone really close every year for about 10 years. And all of that was extremely hard. So when other problems come up, basically I value life. Life is really important, and life can be really short, and it can be taken away at any moment. And once you sort of realize that, other problems do not weigh up to that. Do you know what I mean? I, you know, my whole thing is like, well, it could be worse. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of helps me get over get over things. Um, and I think the hardest times have probably been with losing, people that I've lost. I lost like my dad, my uncles, my grandparents, godmother, cousins, and all people who are very close. And in a majority of those situations, and again, I feel quite lucky for this, and it's a weird way to sort of mention it, but obviously, I'd rather have not lost anyone. Um, but in a lot of those situations, I've sort of had the opportunity to sort of speak to them. Like for example, my dad was a shock. It was an overnight thing. Had no idea about it was coming. Leading up to that, a year leading up to that, we'd always had a bit of a distant relationship. And when I did my master's, it was in the same area that he lived. So every lunch break, not every lunch break, but most lunch breaks, I'd go and meet him. We'd go and have a bit of lunch. We'd go for a little walk around the block, and we'd have a chat. So for that year, I got to view my dad in a different light and sort of make amends with him. So when he did pass away, there weren't any regrets there. I didn't hold on to any ill feeling that may have been there before we hung out for the year. With my uncle, that wasn't a shock. We knew it was coming. It gave the opportunity to really sit down and have a chat and really talk to one another openly, thanking each other for life, for what I've done for him, what he's done for me. So I always try to, since learning these things, I always try to not really have bad blood with the people who are close to me and people who I love, and make amends with those people. And this is sort of what brings me back to earlier about what makes me uncomfortable. If people aren't aligned with me, with the same sort of energy, I just don't hang out with them anymore. And it's for these sort of reasons that I'm mentioning, because I think life is short, and you really should just surround yourself with people who you add life to and add life to you, and make you better and you make them better. So yeah, I think I sort of answered it there.
It's very powerful, and like you say, the older we get, the more we learn about putting in personal boundaries about what works for us, and knowing the type of person and energy you want to interact with, and for you to share that connectivity and energetic connection with that person or people is really valuable. And you learning to put those boundaries in place to keep yourself safe, because ultimately we can't connect with everyone, nor should we. If you were to look back at yourself and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
If I was to look back at myself, I'd give my 18. I was always so cocksure. Do you know what I mean? I was always the happy-go-lucky guy. I didn't, like, at university, I didn't take any notes. I was just so cocksure. And I probably would still be the same, but I'd say just chill out a little bit, take some notes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I never took notes when we were at uni together. And then when I went back to do my master's, I never took notes. I just, like, I know how I like acting, and I just get up and I act. And then, like, more recently, I've been asked to do workshops and run courses. And I'm like, shoot, I don't have any note. I just know what works for me. And I even messaged my group, because the other students in my class, would get annoyed with me because I would just not do. It appeared that I would do as little as possible and still do quite well. And so when I was doing my master's, it was the same thing, and people would kind of get annoyed at me for that. And then when I've been asked to do some of these courses and workshops, I messaged the group to say, look, does anyone have any notes that I can look at? And it was just crickets and silence. No one responded. So just be to, like, still have fun, still enjoy yourself, still don't be afraid. But don't be so cocksure, and, like, just take some notes, and basically.
I love that. That's very good advice.
Yeah.
So I can speak to you all day. I've got a few more questions I'd like to ask you, but before I ask my final few questions, I have a little quick fire rapid question round for you. I'm
Okay.
going to say 2 words, and I would like
Yep.
you to pick the word that you're most drawn to. You don't need to
Okay.
give me an explanation. You don't need to think about it for too long, and you can't pick both. You can only pick one.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. I'm worried about the 2 words. You're going to set me up here.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Netflix or party?
Netflix now.
Pizza or burger?
Pizza or
Burger.
pizza.
Rain or sun?
Sun.
Fast or slow?
Slow.
Three.
Sorry, that last one again.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Eggs or bacon?
Eggs.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Texting or calling?
Calling.
Today or tomorrow?
Today.
Okay.
That wasn't too bad. I thought there'd be a couple of tricks in there.
No. Just to see an imprint of how your brain works.
Yeah.
We've spoken a lot today about sort of mindful practice. We've talked about, the energy that you like to connect with, and how you detune from intense acting roles. But do you follow any? You've spoken also about grounding and meditation, but do you follow any
Yep.
specific spiritual practices that help you in your daily life?
Well, I've always been someone who's always believed that there's something bigger out there. I've always been fairly spiritual in that sense. I've always been fascinated by, I know this isn't quite spiritual, but I've always been fascinated by the pyramids, history. I love learning about the past. But I have definitely always believed in something bigger than us. And in the last couple of years, obviously I've been living in Barbados, and I've been going to church most weekends there, because it's a really nice community, and the singing is amazing and the worship's amazing. Like, everyone's like really fantastic. So definitely in the last few years, I've become more spiritual. And I think it's more about whether you believe in God or you believe in the universe or whatever it may be. I think just believing in something bigger than yourself, i.e. the universe or God or Allah or whatever it may be, believing in something bigger than you sort of humbles you a bit, and sort of reminds you that there's other things going on. Do you know what I mean? It helps me to sort of just settle a little bit. And I've always believed what will be, will be. Do you know what I mean? If I get this role, I get it, and it's meant to be. If I don't, I don't. If I, and not just with acting, but with anything. I believe that everything happens for a reason.
So what do you believe it takes to succeed in life?
I believe it takes commitment. I believe it takes dedication. I believe it takes having a passion for what it is that you're trying to do, or at least, and like, I know people who are really successful in areas that they're not particularly massively interested in, but they love money. And if you love money, then you're going to make whatever you're doing success. If you love acting, I'm going to make acting my success. If I love doing outreach, I think it takes dedication, commitment, belief, self-belief, and drive, and probably a little bit of luck and fortune on your side. But for sure, you definitely have to have dedication, commitment, belief, and drive.
And maybe a few notes along the way as well.
Yeah, exactly. And a few notes. Yeah, definitely.
When you
Yeah, that would also help. Yeah.
Dad, I could speak to you all day long. I love hearing about your life, your stories. It was an honor to spend 3 years studying with you at drama school, not those many years ago.
Yeah, not that many.
So for everyone who's tuned in today who wants to find Jazz, you can find him in a variety of ways. So his Instagram handle is Jazz, JAZZ Lintott, which is LINTOTT. You can also find his website about the play that he's been talking about today, which is goingforgoldplay.com. And the Instagram handle for the play itself is going_for_gold_the_play.
Oh yeah, you did well there.
Thank you. I managed to get it all out. Jazz, it has been such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you for joining me from what looks like paradise and sharing with us and all my listeners about your amazing career. I wish you all the success with the play coming up and the series of all your outreach programs. And thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, Lucy, it's been a real pleasure. And I have to say, you have to have someone interview you, because you are extremely successful. You've got loads of different ventures and businesses. You've achieved a lot, and you've also got such a varied. Even when we were at drama school, you were a businesswoman then. You had one of the first DVDs out for the fitness that you was doing, and you're just fantastic. So it's been a real pleasure to speak with you. I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of this season and to all your other guests. And yeah, thank you for having me on.